Market Athletes back for another interview, this time at Salina Central. We're here with offensive line coach Tony Chesney, night before the big game versus Salina South. Coach, I got a few questions for you. First off, thanks for joining me for a quick interview. You know, this 2025 Mustang team is pretty dominant, and that's kind of what my story is going to show here in a moment. But your offense is usually well known for being a run-heavy, dominant team. You know, you guys average quite a few numbers there above the norm. But this year's a little different. You know, you're up 126% over the norm in average per yards. You have, you know, roughly 700 yards rushing, more than what the 5-year average is. The touchdowns are right up there as well. What's the biggest systematic changes you've made up front this year to create that kind of a jump?
Well, it's probably just having a power 4 tackle and then another highly rated, ranked tackle in Warwick and Caden. But those guys in the middle have really come along, and their leadership has helped them come along. But you could probably say that just a lot of the special things that Cooper Reeves does, like, could account for maybe 700 yards. So he does a lot of special things. He runs really hard. He's starting to really be coachable as a running back and understanding that position. But 8 years systematically, you could run back 8 years of film and it's not different. It's what we do. There's been some advantageous fronts that we've seen this year that, you know, we've gotten after and stacked some yards against, but really it's just the leadership of those guys up front and the ability of Cooper to be a very physical, dominant runner, and Griff is doing a fantastic job distributing the ball and making sure he's getting us in the right stuff. So I wouldn't say there's any systematic changes. It's just we have a lot of really great pieces put together right now that it's starting to click.
So it's a lot of the names this year, the 2025, that may have made that difference. You know, you mentioned Caden Snyder, 4-year starter, 4-star going to KU. How do you balance having a star like Caden, you know, adding into athletes like Sajan and even younger athletes like Warwick, and combine that into the fierce force that you have?
Yeah, you know, we don't want to forget about Reese. You know, he's battling in there and he's doing a good job. But really, the great thing is I have a really good relationship with Caden, and I'm able to coach him really hard. And I, you know, I don't have to pull any punches with him. And when those younger guys see a kid that is, you know, has all the success in the world in front of him, and the attention to detail that he pays because he allows me to coach him hard, really makes their job easier and how I coach them as well. So, you know, it's a tall order. I have over 20 offensive linemen in my drill work every day, just me, and I'm responsible for those 9 through 12s to get better and to develop, because you just don't get Caden Snyders and Warps very often. So you know, he's been a great help just because of what kind of leader he is and how football smart he is and the way he can communicate with those guys. So it's been a really good experience with him this year, for sure.
You mentioned a few other names. It's not all the Hogs doing all of the dirty work. You know, Cooper Reeves, obviously, it's easy to see what he does out on the field. But, you know, one player that's kind of not necessarily unrecognized, but unrecognized because of, you know, just how numbers stack up is Griffin Hall. He's having a pretty breakout season, 26 total touchdowns. That's a school record. You know, under the 8 years that Sambo has been the head coach, he has the highest QBR of any of those quarterbacks. So, you know, how much is this offensive explosion scheme, or is it, you know, just wrinkles in a new?
Well, I mean, obviously having a running game that makes people nervous and people have to hold themselves accountable to having numbers there. You know, that opens some things up. You know, you're not going to find a lot of super long passing touchdowns. A lot of it's within the, you know, in the red zone. We like to throw that thing, and when they want to stack the box on us, that's where we get. I mean, some stats that you wouldn't even recognize. Like, think about, you know, he throws a touchdown every 6 attempts. Like, not completions, but attempts. You know, he throws an interception 1 out of every 90 attempts. You know, he's being really smart with the ball. He's putting us in good positions, and our system is great. And I love coaching within this system. But you just, you know, you get those guys. We have the Gunnar Grosses and the Kavanaughs, and now Griffin, where they're putting us in the right things and they're doing the right things. They're throwing it when they should throw it. They're handing it when they should hand it, and they're giving guys a chance to make plays on the ball. Like, that's, you know, you look at the routes we're running, the system we're running, the concepts, they're the same. It's just they're being executed at a really high level right now.
You made a great point too. You know, a lot of teams, when they get down to the red zone, especially in high school, they're really going to try to run it through your mouth, right? I mean, you guys actually air it out where it's different. I don't think teams are really expecting you to do that in the red zone.
For sure, we're going to take what the defense gives us, and that's what we pride ourselves on, is having a plan to be able to attack people where they're going to oversell. And Cooper is a young man that will make you oversell, and it takes a lot of people to get a hit on him and to stop him from moving forward. And we know that, and we're just taking advantage of those things. And and again, just have a really smart, committed, fantastic young man. Griff is just doing a great job of distributing that thing and making sure that that he's doing the right thing for everyone around him. So he's doing a good job.
Distributing in a way that's kind of unseen too. I mean, you have 3 receivers with 350 yards. You have 7 receivers with at least 1 touchdown catch. So it's not just one guy doing it. It's the entire wide receiver room too.
Yeah, absolutely. They're doing the small things, the way we're running routes, making sure that, maybe this isn't really designed for me, but they're going to go really hard in their route to open those things up for other people. And you see that in the excitement for each other. And that culture is what builds, 9-1 seasons and keeps you rolling and pushes that equipment check in a few weeks back. So a lot of unselfishness this year, and just watching guys get better at perimeter blocking. Noah Peck is a guy that I even got to talk about, and he's just so fantastic. He's learned how to do the small things, and the way we've been able to run the ball the past 3 or 4 weeks especially is a tribute to the things that he's doing well.
Well, I can attest Noah Peck may not be getting a little bit of love here in this session, but in the fans and the stands, he's kind of a fan favorite. So people are definitely noticing his play.
That's awesome.
Coach, you're 60 minutes away from state semifinals here. What's the one thing you're telling your guys in the locker room before kickoff to make sure they treat this game like the game, not just a stepping stone to the next level?
Well, it's a privilege to be playing in November in week 11. So that privilege can't be ignored, and it can't be taken for granted, because that privilege is extended to another team that we're about to see. And a lot is made of the Mayor's Cup and the Salina Central rivalry and the history of it. And I've played in it. I lost 2 games here at Salina Central, and one of them was the South in the playoffs. So there's a long history of it, but it's not to be taken for granted because we have bigger goals. We don't want that equipment checkout day, and we want to make sure that we're doing the right things. But we know that we are a dominant physical team. The 31-21, a lot say it's close, but the numbers wouldn't say it was as close as it was. And but the thing is, looking at the numbers, we average 3 more penalties per game than they do in the last 8 years. We average roughly 27, 28 yards more in penalty yardage. Those are coming at some really poor times in these matchups, and the discipline. It's hard to really force feed the physicality without really recognizing the discipline that's necessary to do it. And we've been focusing on that, doing really physical, violent things the right way, and making sure that we're not putting ourselves in bad spots.
Yeah, it's 2 totally different teams coming into this matchup than it was in week 1.
Absolutely.
I've seen the progression of both teams, and if anybody thinks that they know what's going to happen going into this game, I think they're a little off-kiltered. But I do have Salina Central Mustangs punching that ticket against crosstown rival Salina South tomorrow. So, Coach, if this team does continue to make a deep playoff run, what is it that you want the 2025 Mustangs to be remembered for, 10 years out?
I'm an offensive line guy, and I was always a very physical and intense football player. So I really do want to mold the guys that I coach and I'm around to be in the same fashion. So I want it to be physicality. I think that no one would argue, seeing the way that Cooper runs, that he didn't bring physicality. The way that our defense plays in the box and the way that they hit, the way they fly around is physicality. And what we do up front is we throw people on the ground, and we do it a lot. We have over 200 assaultive blocks this year in our group of 5, and that's not even counting all the ones that we have on the perimeter and from Noah. I think physicality is a thing, that no matter what happens, win, lose, or draw in a game, that a bus is pulling out of here, we're pulling out of somewhere, and that other team is thinking, man, I'm glad that's over. So that physicality, that intensity that we play with, I hope that's the thing people would remember.
I think that's absolutely the one word that comes to mind when anybody says, hey, how was it playing Salina Central? And it was physical, right? So, Coach, we may have a little favoritism here at Market Athletes for Salina Central Mustangs, but we wish you the best of luck. We'll be there cheering you guys on, so go kick some butt.
I appreciate you.